Friends, welcome to episode 190 of the Noclip Crewcast. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're having a great Gamescom week time. It's the Gamescom. We're all here. We love Germany. Games conferences are happening. Jeremy. Oh my God, that was weird.
Yeah.
Freudian slip. How are you doing? How ist das doing? You speak a little bit of German, right?
Ja, ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch.
Bitte.
Ich bin sehr gut. We're going to do the whole podcast in German today.
Oh, brother.
Du hast.
And, yeah.
Du hast mich.
Oh, mein Lieben.
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I did not follow much Gamescom at all, so I'm excited to... this is, for me, it's going to be like listening to a live podcast where my boys do the roundup.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not sure how much of a roundup. I was similarly sort of pick and choose my games conferencing these days. Frank, what's your favorite German food?
I'm trying to think. My default went to beer, but I don't.
Sure.
It's the right answer.
Beer's food.
Yeah.
I'm Irish. I'll
filling.
say. Yeah, beer's food. Anything else? No? Any favorite German beer then? You gotta just say beer.
Heineken.
Heineken's Danish, I think.
I think so, yeah.
It does sound German. It sounds like
Yeah,
a
it
German
sounds
name,
German.
though.
Okay, nothing else? Okay.
No,
okay,
no.
we're going Heineken is Frank's favorite German food. Jesse Garasha, what's your favorite region of Germany?
Oh, man. That's a great question. I love me is Hamburg in Germany because that's where they got the word for my favorite sandwich.
Is that where the hamburgers came from?
It has to be, right?
It must be.
That has to be what it is.
I was talking to my daughter in the car yesterday about how annoyed I am that they're called hamburgers because I, for one, have never eaten a slab of ham in between two buns. That sounds fucking disgusting.
You're missing out.
The term
Delicacy
hamburger
up here.
The term hamburger does derive from Hamburg, the second
Let's
largest city in
go!
Germany. However, there is no certain connection between the food and the city. More research needed.
Damn. Next, you're going to tell me
Okay.
French fries aren't from France.
Yeah,
Just
I don't
call
really
them
know.
chips. French fries.
They tried to call them freedom fries in America for a while.
They did.
That was a reaction to countries and this aged really well for America. This was in reaction to countries having a problem with the illegal invasion of a sovereign nation.
Oh.
So,
all right.
in a
mind
war that is largely considered to have been a clusterfuck after the fact. So, yeah, it's great.
We had to dial it back after the Freedom Fries thing. We were like, listen, guys, the Freedom Fries is making us look bad now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My lord. We're not here to talk about geopolitics and American interventionism. We're here to talk about our time enjoying Gamescom footage and also all of the amazing games that we have played. But first of all, we have to lay it down for our amazing interventionalists: Eamon Slattery, Harry Flanagan, Battle Royale Games, Arno, Richard Matheson, James Brown, Mark Rojas, Ryan Cobb, Tucker Morgan, David McGarry, Sven Huster, Pez, Ewit Nate, Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Jonathan Kremen, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Cameron Laird, Zachary Snader, Alex Sharp, Alex Goucher, George Sikotis, Jacob Godserve, Tohir Tiliev, and Ryson. Thank you all so much for supporting us at patreon.com/noclip. And to all of our incredible patrons, many of whom are enjoying lots of patron shows, behind the scenes goodies, all that sort of stuff. We'll talk a little bit about that at the bottom of the show. But of course, Gamescom is on at the Köln Messe in beautiful Cologne or Köln in the east, in the west of Germany, southwest-ish of Germany. Fun town. Been there many a time. Pre-game spot when I was running Citizen Game back in the day, with GameSpot UK, of course, and GameSpot US. The way Gamescom works, if you're confused over the current week that's going on and the weekend once this podcast is on, is that unlike other conferences that are just kind of on and you have everyone there at the same time, Gamescom does all of its media and business stuff before the public show opens. So they basically have an entire weekend prior which in years past didn't, but in more recent years has had this actual like Jeff Keighley style here's Gamescom thing. Before that this is a whole new sort of aspect to it. So they just had that. You're hearing a lot of news coming out of it, a lot of games getting announced, but the Gamescom coverage is going to continue because you'll have a lot of, YouTube channel, like Digital Foundry are posting a bunch of stuff at the moment. Like you'll have a bunch of sort of people who are in the media / influencer / content space that will still be there for the rest of the week doing more and more stuff. So usually what happens is the big announcements, the trailers, all that sort of stuff happens beforehand. But there will be a steady drip of Gamescom stuff kind of hitting the internet over the next couple of days. And the reason they split it up is like 500,000 people turn up to this thing. It's really big. It's a massive, the Kulmes is like 6 huge warehouses. Like one of them is just dedicated to farming simulators, basically. It's unbelievably large. It's like probably 3 times bigger than E3. It does get really packed as well. It has the best running of the nerds around. So if you've ever covered a gaming convention, to get the slow-mo ready for when they open the turnstiles at the start of the day so you can catch the running of the nerds. And nobody beats Gamescom's particular brand of running of the nerds. But was there anything that stood out to you guys? We're not going to go through everything because there was a whole bunch of stuff announced, and mileage may vary. But Jesse, first of all, I guess, was there anything that stood out to you? Anything that caught your eye from Gamescom this year?
Yeah, there was tons of stuff that I thought, or at least at opening night live. I'm not sure what's on the show floor. Farming Simulator 2025, I'm sure looks great, or 26, whatever we're on now.
I don't know if they do the Madden thing or the year ahead, next season's farms. I have no idea.
What are they doing? What are we planting next year? What's the hot crop?
Hey, look, if you want documentaries on Farming Simulator, go over to our friends at People Make Games. They have you sorted. They did a great one of that last year or earlier this year. Good stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. The competitive one, right? That was
exactly competitive farming. I guess all farming is competitive in a way.
It's true.
You're competing against nature.
Good point.
And other farmers.
Other farmers, exactly. Yeah.
And government subsidies. Or
that's not what you're
competing for.
That's why you're sitting at home not growing corn while you're hanging out.
Exactly, yeah. Hey, man,
soy.
fallow's growing too. Crop rotation's important too.
That's true.
What were we talking about? Oh, yeah, right. Opening
Gamescom,
live. I just want to talk about farming now. Yeah. I mean, there are tons of cool stuff. The last thing they showed, I'm jumping straight to the end of the show just because that's where I want to. That's the thing that excited me the most. The new Mafia game.
Yes.
Got finally shown off. We already kind of knew Hangar 13 was working on a prequel game. I had heard rumors or like a report about this, like very base level information on it. And they finally just came out and said, "Hey, we're doing a new Mafia game. It's called Mafia: The Old Country. It takes place in Sicily in the 1900s or late 1800s, maybe. I can't remember exactly which one. There was just a tease of, hey, we're in Italy and it's a new Mafia game. I thought 3 was fun. I think the story was the better part of it. I didn't really like playing it all that much. So if they can deliver a good mob story and like better gameplay, I'm all here for it, baby. I love me some Mafia. You know me, I'm all about those Italians. They know what's up.
Oh my God, what is that? It's
That's
a
the
podcast,
Sopranos
Jesse.
box
You
set.
can't do a visual. Look at that. Is it DVD or Blu-ray?
It's DVD for sure.
Beautiful. Look at that. Keeping it.
Yeah.
Keeping it 4x3. I mean, it's cool. Hangar 13, local heroes here. They're just down the road in I think it's technically Novato, where our old studio used to be. So that's super exciting. Great stuff happening back in that it's called Hangar 13 because it's literally on an Air Force base. Is it an Air Force? It's an Air Force. Yeah, it's an Air Force. It's an old Air Force.
It's an old hangar, right?
Construction stuff, yeah. So there's a bunch of them down there, but also Toys for Bob are basically there as well. And they just got independence from Activision. They just bought themselves out of Activision. So obviously Hangar 13 part of 2K. It's been a rough couple of years, I feel like, for those guys. Mafia 3 also, that's like 2016 or something. Am I
Something
right?
like that, yeah.
It's a while back.
ago.
Mm-hmm. The thing I'm most excited about is apparently the entire game will be playable in Sicilian, and I just think that's fantastic.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
I'm way into that. Very interested to see that. There was one announcement that happened. This also happens where you get the stuff that didn't make it onto the Keighley stage. So do they announce it before or after? One of the ones that popped before was the latest game from 2 Point Studios, the creators of 2 Point Hospital, which is obviously a big theme hospital style, new game with a lot of the folks. I meant to say, I just my Irish head just defaulted to doing a curse when I couldn't.
A lot of those
finish the
fucks
word.
over there.
A lot of those fuckers over there. For ex-Lionhead people who worked on those games, we've interviewed them a bunch on this podcast feed. We've done videos a bunch of times. With the Black and White doc, we interviewed a bunch of them as well. And then, so they had 2 Point Hospital, and then they had 2 Point Campus was the last one. They have just announced 2 Point Museum, which looks super interesting. You run a museum, the same sort of general art style setup. Like, they've definitely found a formula that can be applied to different stuff. I like this because this to me feels like the most theme park one they have done so far. Like, the hospital was very much like theme hospital. Campus was a really neat idea. I thought it was very interesting and fun, but the people who come into a college is different to people who come into like a 1 day, a place you go for a day to have fun. And that's basically a museum and a theme park are just like on opposite ends of the how educational is this thing, but essentially they're very, very similar. So I'm super excited for it. The trailer looks really cool. I think our friends at Double Jump, Seb and Cam, worked on the trailer or something. I saw Cameron Robinson posting something on Instagram, which is pretty cool. But it's a great trailer. The game looks super interesting. I love these games, and my wife completely gobbles them up when they're out. So you can wishlist it right now, and it says coming soon. I don't know what that means in gaming parlance in 2024, but I'm very excited to see more of 2 Point Museum. Let's go around the. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that looks cool. And mention also, you said ex-Lionhead devs were working on this one, right? Speaking of ex-Lionhead, fucking Black and White 3. No.
I wish.
Almost.
Hey, it's
Masters
got
of
Albion
Albion
in the title. Could be a new Fable if they're not careful. There's Molyneux apparently was a news report out today that they have not they've not. I'm sure they've looked into. Albion is it's basically the old Latin name for England and Wales. There's all these names like Hibernia and stuff like that, right? Which is Scotland, and what was Ireland? Ireland's another weird one. That like the Romans used or whatever. It's what's it called again?
Masters of Albion.
Masters of Albion. Explain what this game is, because it kind of feels like a greatest hits of Molyneux in a way.
Dude, I don't know if you could. It's so bizarre. It's like Black and White kind of. It's that like top-down god omniscient being controlling a small town with a literal hand cursor that like picks things up and drops them where they're supposed to be. You're controlling a little town and building it up. You have characters that you can like zoom into and play from their perspective, which I thought was kind of cool. But then there's like another half of it where you're making the supplies for the people in the town, where you can like build sandwiches and food, and you can build weapons in whatever weird ways you want to. It almost kind of looked like the Ultra Hand stuff from the latest Zelda, the Tears of the Kingdom, where you can just like mash things together and hope for the best. But you can also get in on the fighting. Like the hand could do like Sidious like lightning strikes and burn things, and it was it seems really cool. Like, it's just very cool. There's no other way to describe it. It's one of those new weird games. As soon as it popped up, I was like, this looks like an Xbox 360 game. Like, it doesn't look like the bloom. It was so strange.
Yeah, that's the one thing, is it looks like it's somewhere between a PC game and a mobile game or something. Like, I wasn't quite, especially when you got into like the whole like customizing weapons stuff. Like it went very like sort of.
It looked like a mobile ad.
Yeah, a little bit actually. You're right. Yeah, it did.
Also, because it seems to be like the mobile ads are always like, this is what the game is like, and then the game is nothing like this. I feel like this trailer is doing so fucking much in classic Molyneux fashion that, I mean, that's what I love about Peter Molyneux, is that he's he's a dreamer. So I feel like even when his games fall short of the grandiose promise that is in his mind when he starts them, they're still interesting.
And at the very least, they're showing a game that they've clearly been working on. Like, this isn't like pipe dreamy stuff. Like, a lot of the projects that he's worked on in the past few years have been, past 10 years really, have been, early, sort of image, like trailers that it's not really gameplay, and sort of high concept. And maybe they're doing it maybe to get some money coming in as well. It's hard to tell. I'm not surprised this is a game they announced, because when we interviewed him for the Black and White 2 doc last year, like, that was the the undertone of the conversation, and it comes up a bit, and it definitely did before and after we talked as well, was like they're working on a capital G game here. Like they're not doing anything weird. There was last year there was like, you know, he was flirting with blockchain stuff at one stage as well, which I'm not surprised because he's always been a new technology guy. You know, same thing with the Kinect, with that ridiculous smoke and mirrors Milo game that they were working on. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool to see. It's cool to see him working on a God game again. Like that's where he, you know, between Dungeon Keeper and Populous and Black and White, obviously, that's kind of always been his forte. So you know, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's kind of a mix between Fable and his God game stuff. So that's pretty neat. Frank, did you see anything that stood out to you while we sort of go around the table a couple of times here?
Yeah, the Fatal Fury City of the Wolves got a release date for April 21st, 2025, which that was a game I got hands on at Summer Games Fest, which was great, but they only had like 3 characters available. They showed more characters, more things. So that's coming up. Jesse already talked about the Mafia stuff, which looked awesome. And then I thought it was very funny, Borderlands 4 got announced, which I guess was inevitable. There was no gameplay or anything, but
coming off the hotness of the movie.
Yeah, it's either terrible timing or great timing. I can't really tell.
I think great timing is just, all right, move on, next thing.
Yeah,
Let's
just
look at the
overshadow
next-
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a funny one. I'm not quite sure how to feel about that. Borderlands just feels like such a 2012 franchise at this stage. Like I'm not really sure. Like my worry is that they don't know the parts that people will still like doing and the parts that people will think are annoying or just like don't resonate. We'll talk to Frank about this later because he's been playing Tiny Tina this week. Jesse, do you have any other ones on your list here?
Yeah, we saw gameplay from Dune Awakening, which was cool to finally see. That MMO survival Dune game. It's not Spice Wars. That's the one you played. That was like a strategy game.
Strategy game, which I think is still in early access, if I'm right.
Oh, wow.
So I missed this. How does Dune Awakening look?
It looks cool. It looks like Dune. It looks like the movies, the new ones, the Denis Villeneuve ones. It's like a third-person sandbox survival game where you're like, it's done by the Conan Exiles developers, I believe, and it's like this big, persistent building. There's like character interaction. There's just a lot of stuff they showed off.
You said it was
the first
MMO
gameplay
or
reveal.
it's a survival?
MMO, yeah.
Okay.
So it's supposed to be online, and there's like interactions between the characters. You can customize them and stuff. Shai Hulud showed up at the end, so we were all happy to see the big sandworm. That was great.
There are multiple sandworms, right? Isn't Shai Hulud the name for all?
Shai Hulud's
any
like
worm?
the oldest one, I thought. Isn't that supposed to be the biggest, oldest one?
Oh shit!
Or just any worm? I don't know.
I think it's just any worm.
I thought any worm was a sandworm.
Yeah.
Or Shai Hulud, like the consciousness of all the
Jeremy,
worms. I don't know
do
anything
a
about Dune.
live fact check here on us. Which
Jamie,
Shai
pull
Hulud-
that
Jamie,
up.
pull that up. Yeah.
Could you Google Kitsat Hatteract while you're at it? We'll just do the whole thing. Is it so? What's it called again? Dune what?
Dune Awakening.
Awakening.
Yeah.
Dune Awakening. Yeah, I saw the trailer for it and stuff. It's you play as Paul Atreides, but it's like a different thing, right? It's like a different. Is it a different like universe or something? I feel like I saw a trailer a while ago that was like, "Hey, look, it's Paul Atreides, but it ain't the same story as the movies."
Is that the case? Do you play as? I don't think you do play as Paul
Maybe-
Atreides. I thought it was a
maybe
custom character thing.
Oh, okay, well maybe. Yeah, you know more.
Open
about
world
this than I
survival
do.
MMO. Blah blah blah. This is your Dune. A Dune where Paul Atreides was never born.
Ah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're mixing it up. Jeremy, we got a fact check on.
You know,
Shai Hulud.
it's funny. I've read the entire Dune fandom page in the last minute, and I feel like it did not give me any clarity on the plurality of the sandworms.
Okay.
It just says it's the Fremen term for the sandworm of Arrakis. And I was
Okay.
like, oh, is sandworm like a singular plural thing? And then it just keeps going on and on about how like the Fremen, it's more of a descriptive term for a physical entity. It alludes to the Fremen belief that the sandworm is a physical embodiment of the one god. So I don't know. Seems like there's one sandworm.
It's like a Holy Trinity situation. It's
Yeah.
like God is one thing, but actually it's 3 things. But don't worry about it. It's actually sandworms. It's actually
The Father, the Spirit, and the Holy
sandworm. Exactly, yeah. And then it went into JFK's head, and that's why JFK Jr.'s head, and that's why we all need to vote for him this coming election cycle. So that we can rein in he's the Kwisatz Haderach. That's cool. Yeah, I like to see that. Kingdom Come Deliverance has a sequel coming out.
Looks good.
I did watch the entire trailer, seeing if any black people turned up. They
Shocker.
have not. They still Amazingly, they still have not managed to have any North African people.
It's hard, man. Technology, man. We haven't made it yet.
It's very fun. That shouldn't have been the thing that was on my mind because the game looks really good.
Yeah, it does.
But that's the only thing that's on my mind whenever I think about that because of all the stink that happened around that first fucking game. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, it looks really cool. That first game I played, I tried to get into a couple of times because it looks really good in trailers, and when I see people play it, it seems really interesting. But it never. I feel like there are games where I'll get over the sort of. I feel like it's a broad term, and I feel bad for doing it, but that's sort of like Eastern European jank you sometimes get. I think it just happens with like super systemic games because it also happens plenty in like games like Bethesda games, right? It's a similar thing where you just have these super systemic worlds and they end up doing having bugs in them and stuff, right? But for whatever reason, that first Kingdom Come I tried to I couldn't ever get over it, or maybe my machine wasn't good enough to sort of have it look the way I'd seen it. The trailers for the new game, it looks fantastic, and the animations look pretty great, and the facial animations look really good. And yeah, I think they really punched above their weight on that first game. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on this one. It's just something that happens with studios out there too. Like you got it with Dying Light, you had it with CD Projekt on like a slower scale, I guess. But those studios really just having a vision and being able to with not that many people sort of make something super, super cool. And when you look at first-person games, most first-person games, my eyes glaze over the minute the trailers start. But Kingdom Come seems to be doing something interesting and new and novel. Even if it's in a setting we know pretty well, the way they do it seems pretty cool.
What do you mean your eyes glaze over when you see a first-person trailer? Just like they seem scripted and boring, or
no? Like a new Call of Duty comes out. They're all. And maybe it's just because I've been playing these games for so long, man. But like the new Call of Duties are just, I played that game like 58,000 times. Or like, oh, right. Look, it's another like, neo-futuristic online shooter, or it's another, like there's very few that stand out to me as ones that I'm interested in. Like the Finals was one, right? Where they were at least doing something that was mechanically interesting and new, and the gameplay was different, and the destructibility was interesting, and the graphics were cool. And even if they were same as Kingdom Come in a way, even though it's like maybe it's a setting that's not the most because it's that sort of game showy futuristic stuff, but everything else around it was at least interesting and novel. And actually, Embark's other one, Arc Raiders, seems when I've seen trailers for that gave me similar vibes. But so many of these games. Like, what's that one that's coming out on Sony in the next few weeks? The
Concord?
There you go. Yeah. Like, I don't
Is that
know.
the name? I'm honestly guessing.
It is. No, you're right.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
But like to me, everything is Concord.
Yeah.
Where it's like it doesn't give me any feelings. You know what
That's
I mean?
fair.
It's been years of that. And first person stuff, I feel like immersive first person, like the Wolfeye game, right? Like that's interesting to me. Or like, Outer Worlds 2 hopefully will do some novel stuff, and hopefully Elder Scrolls will, but they're all kind of known quantities in a bit. So maybe if I'd played more Kingdom Come 1, I'd feel like this was more of a known quantity. But yeah, for whatever reason, a lot of those first person games, like, do you feel that? Like, do you feel that when you see like especially when you watch that like Gamescom thing where they show 50 trailers and you're like, Seen it. Not just the first-person games, but just lots of games.
So many things sort of blend together. I think we're hitting a real peak of too many cyber-futuristic dystopian things. I don't know what happened. Cyberpunk just threw that idea in everyone's brains. But I do agree that like first-person, especially shooters, I feel like have a hard time distinguishing themselves. Like Arc Raiders was at Gamescom, but I can't remember. Or at Opening Night Live, there was a trailer for it. I cannot remember what it looks like. But I know it was there, and I know what the branding looks like. The branding looks good, but it occupies the same brain space as like Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Like that trailer.
Yeah, it was a weird trailer they did, because their trailers are usually, I feel like that's because they do all the the Embark did all the finals ones, right, which were really good. And they had that one for Arc Raiders years ago that had the Robin track on it. Yeah. This one seemed like it was more of a story thing. Like it didn't show the game really at all. So I'm with you. That was one that didn't connect with me.
Which is weird because the multiplayer for that looks really good. It's got the omnidirectional movement thing that every other shooter has now. The like you can flip on your back and like roll around and do the MGS5 stuff, or the Helldivers 2 had a similar system. Yeah, Max Payne, Double Action Boogaloo. Like all those games have that kind of that was exciting. But you got to show off Bill Clinton in high res, all his hair. He's in the game.
Bill
He's
Clinton
in Black
is
Ops
in
6.
Arc Raiders?
No,
Okay,
Black Ops 6. Sorry. I was talking about Black
I
Ops.
thought you were talking about Arc Raiders
Bill
too.
Clinton's in Black Ops 6.
Yeah, of course he
When
is.
did they show Black Ops 6?
At fuck. You want a time marker? Let me see if I can find it. No,
No, they showed it at Gamescom.
Yeah, at opening
Is that
night
what you're
live.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I did not know Black Ops 6. That's, oh my gosh. Black
Or is
Ops
that what it's
6.
called now? Is it just called Black Ops 6?
Yeah.
Black Ops 6. That's
boring.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. There he goes. There's Bill Clinton. Black Ops 6. Cool. All right. We're all old
Anyway.
now because Bill Clinton is in a historical game.
That is true. Black Ops 6 is such a funny thing because it's like Black Ops itself is like a subsidiary of Call of Duty, and it's been around so long now that like Black Ops happened because Call of Duty had been around for a while and they needed to do something else, and now
Yes.
Black Ops has been around so that they're up to number 6.
Yep.
Like it's like we're getting to fucking like Final Fantasy side story insanity here. Like it's
If they were doing ethical numbering on the mainline franchise, like what would we be up to on Call of Duty? Like
I don't know.
20.
maybe.
20.
Yeah, have
20
they
seems
outpaced
like a
Final
low
Fantasy?
estimate, but you're
Nah.
probably right.
Anyway.
I was looking at like the PlayStation YouTube just to see what got uploaded. I didn't watch the whole Gamescom thing, but they announced a new Sniper Elite game, Sniper Elite
Yeah.
Resistance.
Oh, yeah.
I love those games so much. So this is like number 1. I can't wait. It's awesome. They're so good.
They showed a bunch of gameplay of Civ 7 as well, which was cool.
I did see that actually.
They
That is
announced
what-
the narrator for that too. It's going to be the what's her name, Gwendolyn, right?
Who is she?
Gwendolyn
I saw
Christie,
that.
Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones.
Oh, that's who it is.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, she got a good voice.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
They should get Peter Coyote, the guy who does the narration for all the Ken Burns movies. You know what I mean?
His name is Peter Coyote.
That
Yeah,
sounds
isn't it-
made up. Acme,
No, is that not
Acme
his
character
name?
ass name.
Am I high out of my? Yeah, Peter Coyote. Is that his birth name? Probably. Yeah, Robert Peter Cohan. All right, that's not quite Coyote, but
I was like, is he like, is that a tribal, is he first gen? Is that, but no, it's not. It's just a guy who decided he wanted a cool surname.
yeah,
It's
no,
like,
I think he's just like a Jewish guy from New York.
Cool.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah, Coyote's it's a Jewish last
Famous
name.
Jewish
Actually.
surname, absolutely. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle as well from Machine Games. They showed more gameplay of that. The more I see it, the more I'm like, oh, okay, they're doing this is because like I think Machine Games, I just think of like just blasting waves of people into meat dust, but like this game has a lot of like using your camera and using your whip and using your. I'm like, okay, I'd like to play it and see how it all flows together because like a lot of it seems specific, and I imagine the game is pretty linear like the Wolfenstein games are. So I don't know. They're so good at story stuff, and I think the trailer had like a bunch of Troy Baker talking about being
How
playing
important it
Indian
is
stuff.
to be Indiana Jones.
Yes, stepping into the hat. I think he said. And
That's
he
not
didn't.
how you wear
Sorry,
hats,
Baker.
Troy.
It might have. He might not have said that. I might be putting this hex on him. But they also announced that indie game is coming out on PS5 like 3 months after the Xbox launch. So that was interesting to see as well. Like the sort of the who knows if that is I suspect that's just because Microsoft, nobody, like Microsoft, PlayStation, whoever it is, nobody can sell enough games on one platform right now. It's just the market is weird and game, especially at that AAA level where the budgets are so high. So it makes complete sense, but it also is perhaps an admission of, they just can't keep stuff, keep some of those games, certainly at least the Bethesda ones maybe, only on first party and only on their home console. It might also have something to do with the antitrust stuff that they were involved in as well, where they sort of had to admit their plans are in that sort of stuff. But we shall see. Any love for Dragon Age the Veilguard? I don't play Dragon Age games. I never have, so I'm not the person for that. But you guys, any?
Nothing.
It seems
Nothing?
like something I would like, and every time I check them out, I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
All right. Dragon Age. And I love the Mass Effect stuff. For whatever reason, Dragon Age just never did it. There was some hands-on stuff for Avowed as well, which seemed pretty cool. So I'm excited to see more of that. We were at Obsidian last time they showed the game off. Ash, what was that? That was a Kiwi thing, was it?
It was like an Xbox, like
that's what it was.
brief. Yes, that's where they debuted the Indiana Jones stuff.
Yeah, the briefing. Yeah, and I don't know anything else. Anything else stick out, lads? Last call on Gamescom. Get your pork knuckle orders in.
Whoa.
There's some random game called Infinity Nikki that was a very cute, like, farming magical girl game. Again, talking about like the antithesis of everything else is like space shooters, whatever. Here's a game where you're a cute girl and have like magic imps that help you farm or do stuff. I don't know, but it looks cute.
Did you say Infinity Mickey?
No, Infinity Nikki.
Oh, Nikki. Okay.
Yeah, Infinity
Okay.
Mickey would be good though.
Yeah.
Mickey is in Ireland. Mickey means penis. So
Oh, okay.
I was like,
I mean that.
Infinity
Hey,
penis.
Infinity Mickey. Find that on the fun side of Steam sometime. They showed off more of the Half-Life 2 RTX thing. They showed a bunch of footage from Nova Prospect, and I was like, yeah, motherfuckers, give me an excuse to replay Half-Life 2 again. Give me an excuse. 20th anniversary coming up this November 16th. So, there's your excuse to replay Half-Life 2. You don't need an excuse. Did you notice as well that the VR-less Half-Life Alyx mod got a big update about 2 weeks ago? So if you want to play Alyx like a regular person without a bucket on your head, I think
that is
thing,
cool, but isn't that like? It feels like it's so much the experience of playing Half-Life Alyx is playing in VR. I feel like you. Lose
I feel like
so
I
much
would
of
rather, having played Half-Life, I never would have played Alyx if Danny hadn't loaned me a Vive to play it with at the beginning of COVID times. I like having played it now. I would rather wait like 10 years for a VR setup to be a Goodwill to have the experience the proper way than like spoil it on a flat monitor. It's so like intricately designed for VR, and there's so much about like laying down on the floor of your living room and like finding little bits under stuff. Like it's just part of the experience.
Yep.
Yeah, it's such a human scale experience, that like intimate, and it's so much about like role playing. Like VR is, we just did an interview for Dear Diary that'll be coming up soon with Andrew Ike, one of the guy who's in charge of Alchemy at the moment, who are the folks who made Job Simulator and Vacation Simulator and Cosmonius High and stuff like that. The Rick and Morty VR game as well. And one of the things that came up when I was talking to him about just like the banality of so much VR stuff, but why it's fun. And his argument was basically that VR is role playing, that it's like when you're in there, you're sort of like an actor on a stage, you know?
Yeah,
and that's 100% what Alyx feels like. Like when you're in that room, you're like I find myself like pretending I'm her or something, or like, like framing the shot a certain way as if I'm a first person camera, of a movie or something like that. And that game is so much about those intimate moments. Like remember that when you meet the Vortigaunt who's like cooking the head crab in that underground area, he like opens the slide door and his face is right there, and he's like, and he's kind of got like, he's got like some sort of disorder, like his head, I think he's disconnected from the rest of the Vorts, so he's having like this sort of confusion over things, but he's like cooking and grabbing things, and you're just there looking at him. But if that was in first person, you'd just be standing there looking for a while. But because it's in VR, you feel like you're sharing that space with him, and the light's going a certain way, and you're looking around, and you're messing with stuff with physics. You're like touching the head crabs that are hanging. Like it's so much a different thing. But look, headsets are expensive, so
Yeah, it is like, it does have sort of like a like the theme, like when you go on the Jaws theme park ride, you know what I mean? And there's like the big mechanical shark pops up. It has an element of that where it's like, it does, it's immersive. Like if you watched a video of someone on the Jaws theme park ride, you wouldn't be like, whoa, this is sick, dude. That's a big shark. It's it's hearing it and being in it. But yeah, no, the role-playing thing about VR is very interesting. I played Phasmophobia with my friends a while ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I was the only one it has VR capability, and I was the only one who had a VR setup. So it was 4 of us, but I was the only one with VR controls. And me and my friend, I kept hiding like behind trash cans and shit, and just like crouching down in real life. And then I would just peek up over at my friends. And it was very, very funny, because it's just a weird, uncanny thing to do, especially in a game where you're primed to just see people with normal first person character controllers walk around and having kind of like the binary crouch or either up or down, to then look over and see one of your friends like peering around a corner, like like really scary. I don't know. There's something very comical about VR that those games like Job Simulator tap into.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just another. It's a whole other. It's hard to explain it to people without them, putting the thing on their head and walking around. Have you guys been keeping an eye on this inZOI thing?
What?
There's like a bunch of these inZOI. There's like a bunch of these life simulator games, which I feel like we talked about a couple of weeks back. We were talking about Jake Solomon's new thing as well. This one's been put out by Crafton.
Yes.
And it's like a whole like super detailed make your character and then live in a city. You know what I mean? Like just be a sim and like have relationships and super detailed homes, and like the whole thing looks like your graphics card is going to melt at any stage. It's really wild. Have you guys seen this thing at all?
Yeah, there was a trailer for this at opening night live. I saw it again because I think they'd shown it before. It looks, you're describing it perfectly. It kind of looks like if you put a bunch of high quality, high texture, overly detailed mods on Grand Theft Auto 5 Online, that's what this game looks like.
Yeah,
and I don't entirely get how it works. It kind of looks fake. Like it does like a game you could play, but it doesn't look like it should work.
It looks like a game from like a TV show where like, there's a new game that kids can't stop playing, and this is on the monitor.
Yeah, it feels like the seed for a Black Mirror story.
Yeah,
exactly. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, it kind of looks like the pre-rendered porno games you get. Like it's kind of that.
Oh my god, it kind of does.
Every time I see this, I'm like, okay, but like you get to fuck everyone at the end, right? Like, that's what's going on, right?
Ice-T's coming out like, all these kids are playing inZOI, man. They're addicted to it. They can't stop it.
Exactly.
They're doing drug deals in inZOI.
Amazing. Away from inZOI, a very interesting thing is happening with this Soul Reaver Kickstarter. We didn't talk about it much on here because it's not a game, but there's obviously the rumors that there's some type of Soul Reaver project. I think there was a statue unveiled somewhere. Where was it? Was it Comic-Con maybe? I think it was. There was some type of
like a little figure.
Yeah, a little figurine. Was that something like one of those? It cost like $800 probably. You know what I mean? Like one of those ones that alluded to some type of remaster. There has been some activity around Soul Reaver though with this graphic novel, which is a very interesting situation because it's an official Soul Reaver prequel graphic novel, but they're doing a Kickstarter of it. So it's not like, this is something that Crystal Dynamics are just putting out there. But they were asking for $25,000. It's been up for, I think, 2 days, and it has almost $800,000. There's 22 days to go on this. There's 4,360 backers, and they've chipped in almost $1 million. Every time I look at this thing, it goes up by about $200,000.
That's wild.
I mean, if you want people with money to make a new Soul Reaver game, this is what you do. You fucking throw money at the first thing, the first opportunity. And I mean, that's that fandom has been screaming for something for a long time, but you can never really tell if it's vocal minority kind of situation. Like the Mirror's Edge re-release. But this is wild. Like that's a hell of a lot of money.
Did you look at the Kickstarter rewards?
They're pretty cool.
They're really cool, but the one of them is a Kain mask, but it's one of those like all over latex masks that goes over your whole fucking head. Like
a Raziel one as well.
Yeah. But the Kain one is particularly frightening.
It is. Oh, it goes. Oh, yeah. It even covers the. Well, Raziel's face probably hangs off is the problem.
Yeah.
Right. He's got the. Yeah. So, but yeah, the Kain one does look super intense. Look at that.
Yeah, it's really, really scary. But they're really cool. There's also like a Soul Reaver sword, the Reaver. This looks incredible.
What's the most expensive one? I love when you can find that. You just find the one that's just disgusting. Okay, there's one here for $2,500. Backers won for it. It's an original painting by Acevedo, who I'm assuming is some sort of incredible artist within the community. Preston Acevedo original painting, and Rapazoa hardcore graphic novel limited to 1. That's all for $2,500.
It's Timur Hussein is probably the one guy.
Exactly. Yeah, Tom's the one who's gotten it.
Yeah.
The apparel bundle has everything in it. It looks like there's like 3 different hardcover versions of the graphic novel available too. But I'm with you. The Reaver replicas look dope, and the masks look dope. And it's been a while since I've done a Kickstarter, but a lot of the time you get like that backer kit email afterwards where they're like, oh, do you want to just like a la carte add some stuff on to your order and we'll handle that? So I don't know if they're doing that, but they should. Oh my God, yeah. Oh, the Raziel mask looks amazing because you pull the cowl up over your mouth. That's very cool.
And this is all just for a comic book, right?
It's just for a comic book, Jesse.
That's awesome.
Arguably, these people are mostly investing in the latex masks.
Oh,
the
yeah.
comic book is what they're getting for free.
Of course.
And a vinyl album as well.
There's a skate deck.
Oh, that's cool.
That's great.
Skate. There you go. Is Raziel coming to Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2?
Is the Raziel mouth like an opening, or is it just a concave piece of latex? Because if it's an opening, like if you were cosplaying, you could take like a little sip of, you could pull down the cowl.
Right.
Oh, drink in it. Yeah.
Yeah. You'd have to paint yourself black, which is also,
Also problematic.
you got to be really fucking
It's a real
careful.
Justin Trudeau road to go down.
Exactly. Is it?
Well done. You could have pulled anyone.
You could but look, present company, you got to go for the Canadian one. Right? If
Thank
you
you.
That one
did.
was
No,
for
I
you,
appreciate
Jesse.
it.
Yeah.
No,
That's
that's
for you,
good.
buddy.
We make the same joke.
Did he really do that? I didn't know about that. Did he?
Yeah,
Was
I
that
think it was more
Oh,
brown face. He dressed up as Aladdin for Halloween.
Yeah, you should
dressed
Google
up as
it.
Aladdin, and
You should Google it.
Wait.
Yeah,
He
it
went
doesn't
about
even make any
40
sense. You're right.
He went
It
about
doesn't make
40
any sense.
shades too dark for Aladdin.
The reason I find that particularly ridiculous is that when I was growing up in Ireland watching Disney movies, it used to really annoy me that all of the characters were, in my mind, American. I was like, Aladdin's not from the fucking Middle East. Like in Aladdin, he's like, maybe his parents were, but like he speaks like he's fucking from somewhere in the mid-Atlantic. Like Belle in Beauty and the Beast is the only person who doesn't speak French in that movie. It was like, why is there this town of all these people going like bonjour, 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 but then she's like la 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 la, like she's from fucking
She's
Kansas
doing
or
a gap
something.
year in France.
Yeah.
Danny, you should Google Justin Trudeau Aladdin because
I shouldn't. I really
It's even worse.
I don't think we can show it, obviously, but I think you should Google it because I think it's worth seeing your reaction. It doesn't look like he's doing a skin tone. It looks like he's dressed up as like a mythical djinn.
Well,
Like,
it's even funnier when you see who he's next to in the picture, because it's not just him. He's standing next to, I assume, 2 Sikh gentlemen who are much lighter than him.
Oh wow, yeah.
But he's okay. Is the picture in black and white? Oh my God.
There you go. You got it.
I don't know if the picture you described is not the picture I found. The picture
There's a
I
few of
found
them.
is this.
Oh yeah, there you go.
You could
That
and
is-
Jesus Christ.
That is unbelievable.
It's our Prime Minister.
Wow. All right, there you go. Cool. All right.
He was actually dressing up as Nightcrawler from the X-Men. Can you
That's
guys
what
have
it
some
looks
respect?
like.
It does.
Yeah.
That's what, because his teeth. It looks like, when he goes dark and all you see is he goes, shh, and his eyes.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. Wow. That's okay. That's great. Okay.
That's like the only thing I know about Canadian politics is that
I hate
Justin
that.
Trudeau.
I mean, that's funny as hell. I wish we were more interesting. I know way too much about American politics, but if it's
We
going to
just
be
get all
anything,
the
it might
weird
as well be
stuff.
that.
That
Yeah.
and the truckers. I remember the trucker thing.
Yeah, the
Oh, yeah,
truckers.
yeah.
That was the whole thing. That's all that happens, right? You can get, what else we got here? Raziel and Kain clan banners. They also have maybe the worst looking hoodie I've ever seen. Is unlockable. Have you guys seen this?
Unlockable
The,
hoodie.
the red and
Oh yeah.
like red has the dead shall rise written on the back, which I don't know. It seems like it might freak out people who are.
That's a weird
behind
thing
you.
to wear at the grocery store. The dead
Not sure
shall
about
rise.
that.
Looks like a
Skateboard
Rorschach
looks all
test.
right. It does. It does look like that. Yeah. You can get in. You can get drawn into the story. Okay, at a certain point, we're just like doing advertising for this thing, so I better stop. Yeah, that's there you go. Games conference. It's happening. Go to Germany. Enjoy some Heineken.
Some bratwurst.
Play some video games. Exactly. All right. Let's should we close the book on Gamescom and talk about some contemporary games?
Well, yeah, let's do it.
Jeremy and Jesse, you guys played this game. I think I mentioned this when we were doing our Next Fest stuff. Everyone's favorite gas station, Arco. This is a game.
God damn it.
Is this out now or is this still in early access?
It is out.
It's out.
It's out. Okay. Explain. Let's both of you guys. Who wants to pick up the truncheon on this one? And
Let's go at the same time. Let's just
Yeah, let's just talk simultaneously.
See
You
how
can
long
do your
we go in
best to
sync
part.
for.
Jesse, what do you want to take?
No,
it
you should
first?
do this. This was you champion this one more than me. I didn't even play the
surprised
demo for
neither.
Next Fest until you talked about it. So
I'm not surprised none of you want to do this because it's kind of hard to explain this thing as well.
It
a
is
little bit.
So Arco is it's not quite a tactics RPG. It's more of like a semi real-time combat RPG, I guess. It is hard to explain in terms of mechanics and genre. I feel like it'll become clearer the more we talk about it. But it is a like a fantasy version of sort of like an anti-colonial Western is how I would describe it. It clearly takes inspiration from Mesoamerican culture, and then there's like the newcomers who are kind of like the white settlers and stuff, who are more like cowboyish. But it does not take place, like you won't see like references to real historical events or places or something. It's kind of like veiled through this fantastical lens. But you know there are like real foods and things like that. It's very grounded in real historical events and peoples and things like that. So that is an interesting element of it, is that it like a game like this where there's a very good combat system that you're mastering, having an element of kind of like anti-colonialist power fantasy where like the white folk roll in and they're like, we're gonna desecrate your sacred tree, and you're like, not if I kill 1,000 of you with my bare hands. Like it's that part of it is pretty sick. But the thing that stands, I want to talk about kind of like the four big elements of this and how I feel about the various ones. But I think the biggest thing to talk about here is the combat system. We talked about this a little bit during Next Fest when this demo popped up, because this demo was very short and I played it for probably 4.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
This is one of my favorite new combat systems I've played in a very long time. It is incredibly streamlined and efficient and just like no bullshit, amazing combat. So the way it works is basically that you take turns and you sort of queue up moves or abilities or whatever for all of your units. And then and you can see there's a telegraphing of what the enemies will do. So everyone queues up their moves, and then all of the moves happen simultaneously in real time. It's sort of like the game pauses and then it unpauses for all the moves to be performed. The reason this is interesting is because even though you can see what everyone is going to do, there is a little bit of ambiguity and wiggle room. Like an enemy will telegraph that they're going to do like a shotgun shot. Where all of those bullets will go, like you know that they're going to shoot at your guy who's over here. You can try to move out of the way, but there's a little bit of wiggle room and ambiguity and squishiness in terms of like where the bullets will scatter and their trajectory and things like that. So it is an interesting blend between a game like Slay the Spire, where you can see everything that's going to happen and know with perfect accuracy how to prepare and try to prepare the best you can. It has I'd say it's like 80% that, but then the 20% sort of ambiguity lends a really interesting real-time feel to it that feels
Yeah, I want to quickly interject because I need Frank to do some research maybe while you're talking about this, unless he remembers it. Do you remember the game I told you about that I saw at QuakeCon? That was basically what Jeremy is talking about, but it was multiplayer. It had a weird name. It came out like 2 years ago. It's a third person, like multiplayer only. So there was like a group of 6 of these people playing this game. And it was a third person shooter where everyone was running around naked for some reason. It looked ridiculous.
What?
And you could point, you could throw grenades, you could make your character go somewhere, but everyone selected at the same time. And then that turn played. And sometimes people would shoot somebody, and sometimes they would. I'd never seen anything like it.
I remember you told me about it. I don't remember the name.
Okay, I'll keep looking. But I want to, because Jeremy basically is talking about that. Imagine a game where it's 100% ambiguity and you're playing multiplayer, and that's what this
sounds
was.
amazing.
But anyway, I digress. I'm gonna try and find it while you're talking about.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So this combat system is just it's fucking bananas. And Jesse, I want to hand it off and hear your thoughts on it in 1 second. But an anecdote I want to share is that I have been so sinking. I think I'm like the number one Arco player on the fucking planet because I got an achievement. There's this. I don't think this is a spoiler. It's just kind of like a game design thing. There is an event in the game where you're very clearly supposed to die. Like you're supposed to lose. And if you do not lose, the game continues to be like, oh yeah, here's some more bullshit for you. And I replayed it a few times until I could not be beaten. I just refused to lose on the scripted event. And eventually, I won't say what happened, but the game was like, all right, chill, dude. We get it. You're fucking, we get it. You're good at the game. And I got an achievement that is like 0.01% of people have.
Oh, so that's very cool.
I love this combat system. And I only tell that anecdote to stress that, this is something that I've been like fixated on. I think it's so good, and I think there's so much depth, and it's kind of like Baldur's Gate or Divinity where there's like tactical depth to it, but because there are so few moves and so few units, and it's kind of like it has an elegant simplicity to it. It's very lean. But yeah, Jesse, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree that the combat system's very intricate. It's interesting, right? It's like, because you can respond to everything, like characters have markers over their head, like you said, like they're going to shoot, or they're going to reload, or they're going to move, or whatever action they're performing. You can see roughly where they're going to end up, and all of your attacks have arcs as well. But I think the coolest thing to me, like you've described all of the qualities about it, but the thing that made me go, oh, this is really cool, is like you have ranged attacks, right? Like what Jeremy's describing when enemies shoot at you is the bullets have that sort of spread, they move along, but they don't complete their action. Every turn that you're planning is like 1 second long, and that action will play out, but that doesn't mean that a projectile is going to reach its endpoint once that turn has been selected. So if you choose you're going to shoot an arrow and your opponents are shooting bullets, that 1 second will play out, but that's not the whole time for the arrow to travel. Arrows, bullets will sit in the air, and you have to like dodge out of the way of them, or like move or prepare for that. And like part of the play, or there's abilities that you can unlock. Like there's a skill tree that has a series of abilities that you can equip to use during combat. And one of them is this like lobbed arrow that you can shoot. Yeah, you shoot it in the air, and it takes like 2 turns to land. So you have to think not just what am I responding to, but also plan around having your attack land in the position you want it to land in. And then there's like things in the area that you need to deal with as well, like environmental hazards that you can play into. Like there's a cactus, and if you hit it, it shoots a bunch of things out. Or there's like bullets. There's things you can pick up that will give you more of your ability points. You have a set number of ability points you can use for each attack. Some of them, like shooting an arrow or the lob arrow, takes like 3, where a punch or whatever can be free, but it interrupts attacks and stuff. So there's that sort of strategy element. Yeah, the combat system just has so many layers to it, so many things to consider, and like tons of ways for you to choose how you want to play. Those fixed ability slots you can like fill up with ranged attacks, but they take longer to reload. So you got to walk around a bunch, keep dodging until you get your shots back, or you can play more melee and like get in there and hit people and knock them and recharge your points faster. So there's lots of different options for playability. But then even outside of the combat, Arco, I don't know, Jeremy, if you're experiencing the same kind of thing. This is a beautiful video game. This is like... Yeah. Just looking at it, like visually, the vistas that you get, the depth in the backgrounds is really, really well done. It has this sense of scale that I feel like a lot of games that try to do a sense of scale don't quite reach the level of. This is like very small pixel art that is still very expressive in its style. It's just gorgeous to look at. Sorry, Danny, it looked like you had something you want to say.
No, I just wanted to, like, I think it's people should like anchor all that with the idea that this is a very like, it's a pixel arty game, but like, yeah, it is, but within that context, it is like, yeah, it's just even the like the color temperature they use feels very, you get a sense of it being cloudy or sunny. Like it's got a very, I just think it's really expertly, I don't know, the art style is very, it reminds me of when you're filming on a cloudy day and the light is so even. It's like really nice and pleasant to be there. It's a great looking thing. And the UI, all the UI, little, rectangular bubble sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Pops really good.
It's good. There's some font issues, I think, with the UI where it's like a little inconsistent. Some stuff is like a little too thin, some of it clashes with the pixel art, but it's really not that big of a deal. Sorry?
You playing Steam Deck with this one?
Yes, I played on PC and Steam Deck. I was actually worried Steam Deck wasn't going to work as well because it is kind of a tactics game where you're observing stuff, but I had zero issue. Once you learn the controls, it takes a little bit. It's not immediately intuitive, I feel like, because there's like your different attacks. There's up to 10 of them, and you have to like select it with the D-pad, which attack you're going to do. And then, I don't know, you just get used to it. It takes a little bit. Your first couple rounds, you might die a couple times, but once you get used to it, it feels totally flawless. Yeah, and the writing also is like so. It's hilarious. This game, it's so funny. Like it's funny and it's heartfelt, and it has this level of like sincerity. It's just, I don't know. It makes me think of all of my favorite movies and TV shows, not like in the specific genre of anti-colonialist Western stuff or any sort of like, I don't know anything about Mesoamerican history, but just like The Sopranos, not to reference the box that I've been holding up, but like that level of like character interaction and like smaller, quieter moments that endear you to people. They have a lot of that stuff.
I feel two ways about the writing. I feel like there are moments where it takes itself very seriously, and I love those because there are moments where legitimately I feel like I'm playing like a weird like side scene from Blood Meridian, but in like a fantasy world. And then there are scenes where it goes a little more silly. Like there was a scene. There have been multiple times where like a text bubble will pop up and someone is expressing through like an emoticon, and I was like, "Fuck, dude!" Like, I feel like this game has so much potential to be like a really hard hitting anti-colonialist narrative, and then it kind of drifts a little bit into being like a little too silly for my taste. So. I think the writing is clearly good at times. I just think it is. I think this is very much a personal taste thing. I don't think the writing is ever bad. I just think that there are moments where I wish it was like, I wish it doubled down on its confidence in being like a gritty, bloody fucking Western. And because then I think if you don't go silly, I think those are opportunities to pull back from the direness of the seriousness and have like a seriousness of another flavor, which is like vulnerability and characters being like, man, it's crazy. This shit is crazy. Like the things we've been.
I agree, but I think to pull that off, they'd have to pull back a lot of like base stuff from the game. Like the game itself is quite silly. Like I completely get what you're saying. I think the emoticon text message style can be a little like it throws off some of the moments, especially with like the children, the interactions that you have with them after sort of severe narrative events. It can be a little like awkward if they do like a sad face. I don't remember if that happened with one of the kids, but it's a
little jarring. Yeah,
you see a little stuff like that. It's a little, but also the way the characters move around on the screen, like when you're doing the overworld stuff, it's not like a little pixelated around. Guys. They're bouncing, like they're alpacas bouncing around on the screen. There's a little inherent comedy to the way that it's designed. I totally get what you're saying. Like I think
that's fair.
There's
that's fair.
Times where I wish it was maybe leaning a little bit more into that stuff. But again, that's kind of why I like The Sopranos, because it gets dumb sometimes. Like it's self-serious in a lot of moments with its comedy, but because it gets so stupid, I'm like, when shit goes down, I feel worse. I'm like, oh man, this character was just telling me or I just punched this donkey 10 times and got an achievement, and now the donkey's dead? Why? So I get what you're saying though. It's definitely a personal taste thing.
Yeah, 100%. I don't mean to say that the writing isn't great, because I think the story structure does some really interesting things, and I think that. The only other thing to mention is the music of this game is fucking bananas. It's so good.
It reminds me of Leica, by the way, Danny. The music, Leica Age Through Blood. Yeah, a little bit.
Arco, I cannot for the life of me find this thing, man. I don't know if what I explained sounded like anything, please DM me on Twitter or shoot us an email, podcast@noclip.video. It's like a simultaneous turn-based shooter. I think it was a mod, actually, of something. I don't know what it was a mod of, though. So it looked completely insane and hilarious.
I don't know if this is it. Probably not. But the one game that was kind of going around at QuakeCon, there's a new game called Midnight Guns, but I don't think it's that. But that is a tactical team shooter. So maybe.
Yeah, that's not even out yet, though, is it? Midnight Guns is like it's not even. Okay. Yeah, it's on a wish list. Midnight Guns looks like a interesting like arena shooter, kind of like a throwback arena shooter kind of thing. No, this thing was. That's the thing. Like I could pick it out of a screenshot of like 100 games in a second. You know what it looked like? It looked like Kenshi.
Really?
Like that's the level of graphics we're talking. It was like blocky. I don't know if these people playing were doing naked people on purpose, but it was wild. They would like everyone decided what they were gonna do, like shoot their shotgun in a particular direction, and it's like a third-person shooter, so you can pick like any direction to shoot in, throw a grenade, whatever, and then, or jump somewhere, and then everyone would do it at the same time. So people would like throw grenades and they'd bounce in places they didn't expect, or nobody was there, or they'd shoot a shotgun but that person had moved, like all that sort of stuff.
The way you described it, I remember I think even replying back, like it sounded like Worms, but somehow as a
exactly.
shooter.
It sounded like synchronous synchronous worms. Worms is like turn-based where one person has a go and another one does. This was all at the same time. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll
Sounds
look it up
hilarious.
some other time.
I
Yeah,
wanna
it's
find
completely mad. Arco though is available now. Is it like $17 or something like that?
Yeah, it's 20, but it's on sale for 17. And
Terrific.
I feel like this game has really slipped under the radar. I think the level of quality that I have experienced in almost 10 hours of playing it, to the amount of people I've seen talking about it, the amount of people who have played it and reviewed it and bought it, it seems disproportionate. I think this game deserves a lot more attention.
There you go. Arco available on Steam right now. Go pick it up. All right. I'm going to quickly talk about the Crimson Diamond, which is a game that came out just last week as well. Available on Steam. It came out August 15th. It is $15 with 10% off at the moment. This is developed by
Oh, look at that.
Julia Minamata, who came to my attention because she is the artist who designed the pictures in the Monkey Island book, which Jeremy might remember as well. When we did our documentary on The Secret of Monkey Island, we had a couple of shots in there. I never credited, I think we credited the book. I didn't credit the artist who did the pictures. I didn't know who that was. So I made right on that on Twitter and then shouted her out and followed her back and then realized that she was also working on this game, the Crimson Diamond, which is I've absolutely been loving it. The writing's fantastic, but basically, just so you know, it is basically a. Why am I completely blanking on the way you play these games? What's it called? So it's
Point and click?
No, it's like King's Quest and Leisure Suit Larry. So there's a text parser. There we go.
Okay.
Text parser. So this is an adventure game, but instead of it being point and click, this is in the realm of Leisure Suit Larry and King's Quest, where you have a text parser, which is basically you walk your character around, but when you're talking to people or doing interactions, you're basically saying open door, you're typing it in, look around, look in the room, search this, that type of stuff. So it's that type of thing, but the graphics are just pure like EGA crack. Like it looks like all of your favorite like Monkey Island 1 and 2 kind of era stuff. Maniac Mansion, just like super vivid EGA color palette, real throwback stuff. And the stories, like these games live and die on the stories and how interesting the worlds are. And I absolutely love this world. I think it's so interesting. You play an amateur geologist who is sent off to this part of America. I couldn't tell you when it is. It feels like it's like early 1900s, maybe. Like there are cars here, but they've huge big wheels. You know what I mean? And like they make a lot of noise. Like it's and it's off. I think it's in the Pacific Northwest is where it's happening, and it's basically a sort of a mystery. You know, it's your classical. Did we find diamonds in the ground here? There is somebody who owns the land who's having an argument with his sister over the land rights. There is a native tribe involved in it as well. The whole thing starts with basically a fisherman downstream catching a fish, opening it up and finding a diamond in its stomach. So it's very like, what's going on here? Is there a claim in this place? There's a couple of different people involved, who knows what and what is their involvement in this. And yeah, it's a joy to play. These games are a little bit like you sort of have to figure out where the walls are, like you can't just type anything in, but you can type a lot in and you can figure out the puzzles. And while point and click games are very exciting because you sort of, point and click games are basically like you walk up to a door and you check your inventory and you have 40 keys and you try every key, right? Or maybe you look at the door, this is a metaphor, by the way. I'm not actually talking about keys. You look at the door and it looks like a certain thing. So in your inventory, you're like, oh, it's probably that item does this, or that's what that person needs, or that's what that thing is. But a lot of it is you can pick up certain things and then generally they're used somewhere else. The difference in this game is that you're doing a lot of like thinking outside the box. For instance, like one of the early puzzles is you're trying to eavesdrop on a conversation. And immediately I was like, well, okay, video game, like, I don't know, listen at the door. And they're like, oh, well, there's some noise coming through, but you can't really get, you can't really hear it. And I'm like, what's the first thing you guys think of when you're like trying to hear a conversation on the other side of a door and it's like a movie or something?
Like glass
put
to
your
ear to door.
Exactly, right. So Jesse went glass. Jeremy said ear to door. I thought for some reason cup. So I went downstairs, got a cup, went up to the door, and they were like, no, you can't use the cup. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, cup is stupid. I should get a glass. And I went back down and I picked up a glass, came back up, and it totally worked.
Wow.
So like it's mechanically really interesting. I love to remind me of that line we had in our Secret of Monkey Island documentary. You know, a lot of these games are basically rewarding you with art. The art in this game is great. It's like I am happily being rewarded with art. I love the look of this game. It just pops off the screen. I want every. There's like I've taken so many screenshots. I want the shit printed like on my wall. I'd love to get like when you get those like really naff backlit picture frames where they like, there's some type of transparency thing and there's a light in the back of it and it's like, oh, it's a light up picture. I want that of this though. This or like a neon LED or something, like something made.
Yeah, this does look like it should be made in a light bright, and that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. It's absolutely great. So yeah, I'm loving it. I think you should, if you're into those types of games or you've never played them, I think if you've never played them, actually, this is probably a really strong game to play, because I think going back and playing a lot of King's Quest stuff or Leisure Suit Larry might be tricky. This game is coming at you from the perspective of, look, these games are weird. So like it has a hint system in it, or it links you to a page. It will give you like spoiler tips if you want. It has a tooltip that you can pop up that basically says like, look, you don't have to type Dorian every time. You can just say D if you want. Like that type of stuff. The tutorial is good as well. So yeah, the Crimson Diamond, can't recommend it highly enough if you're into that sort of thing, or if you've been tempted in the past. Available on Steam for $13.49 at the moment. So go check it out. Frank, you're here with the game on everyone's mind, really. What made you go play Borderlands Tiny Tina's Wonderland this week, pray tell?
Guys, it's the week of looter shooters. Borderlands, well,
We're so back.
Borderlands in the movie theaters, but not for long. But the good thing about it though is all the Borderlands games were on sale on Steam, and this struck up because we were at QuakeCon. And again, my favorite thing of QuakeCon is just going down. What's everyone playing? And I saw a lot of people playing Borderlands because every game was like $5, or I bought like the Epic Pack, whatever, the Borderlands, whatever the hell, for like $30. You get every game, every DLC, everything. And so at QuakeCon, I was like, I want to play Borderlands 2. This is great. And then when I came home from QuakeCon, I was like, I want to play Borderlands 1. This is great. But the question that was nagging me was like, what the hell is Tiny Tina's Wonderland? That was like the most recent one. It was a spin-off. Danny would point out like Borderlands 2 had a DLC thing that was like Tiny Tina's Wonder Keep, whatever, like a micro version of this. I think that was well regarded. I think that was well regarded, the DLC. I don't know. I don't know. That's why I had to like check it out and try it. Like I really liked the only DLC I ever played was like the Borderlands 1 stuff. I loved like the zombie stuff. This is a decade ago, but I had fun back then. So I was really curious. So on PlayStation Network, this was like $17 with every DLC. This game originally came out, I think, 1 or 2 years ago. But anytime it popped up on like Jeff Keighley stuff or whatever, I think the whole universe just like groaned, because the thing that I hate with like the Borderlands stuff is any of the personality or character or dialogue or any of that stuff is so annoying and grating that anytime they would market the game, I would get so like angry and annoyed that I ignored it. But I really do like looter shooters. Destiny was my like quarantine game. I was playing Diablo a few months ago. It's just a fun game to chill out with. I'm very like stressed and excited to be doing a bunch of traveling soon. So I don't want to get involved in any game that like, I don't want to start something and then put it down, forget about it for 2 weeks. So I need something mindless and satisfying. And so a looter shooter sounds great. So I got Tiny Tina's Wonderland, and it's basically Borderlands but set in a super colorful D&D world, which is actually like pretty great. You can skip cutscenes in this. You can turn off the dialogue. So it's very enjoyable. You are shooting skeletons. You are shooting dragons. You are shooting lizards. It doesn't
Voice
matter.
volume 0.
Yeah, you set the dialogue down. You can skip cutscenes. You make your character the start. You have different spells you can do. So it's like, it's very easy and manageable too. I've been doing single player. I've been doing online co-op. This does have crossplay. So I think they introduced crossplay with Borderlands 3. They call it like Shift. So you can PC people can play with PlayStation or Xbox or vice versa. So I have random friends who have this game at different character levels. So like, it's perfectly fun and mindless. But yeah, I wasn't sure if like, is this like a hack and slash? But no, it's straight up guns. You do have like melee weapons, but it's
good.
all the regular Borderlands stuff. So guns, shotguns, sniper rifles, crossbows. But the extra fun, you do get like magic abilities, and you can equip different spells and stuff. So it makes it fun. And yeah, for like $17, this is great. The thing I like about this is the way that progresses you through the game is like, you have like missions and it's pretty linear. You're going down dungeons or you're invading castles or whatever. And instead of like the thing with like Borderlands 1 and 2 is you're driving around these giant landscapes, which gets kind of tedious, and like the fast travel is kind of annoying. You have to go to a specific like fast travel point. Here you have like an overworld, and from the overworld you walk, but then you pick which mission or which level you want to do, which kind of makes it like Destiny. Destiny has the galaxy map, and you pick which dungeon or thing you want to do. So it's like, I don't know if with this one specifically they took influence from Destiny, but it's pretty smooth and easy. And what I like about spin-off type games is this doesn't seem like it's very long. So I'm having a good time with it. I will probably forget about it in a week after I leave. But hey, this was for super cheap. This is great. If this was like $60, like, I don't know. But and I know I'm very like cavalier talking about how I'm annoyed with all the Borderlands crap, but like, yeah, that legitimately turned me off from ever wanting to try the game.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can just play it and ignore all of it, oh my God, it's great. And then if friends have it, you can co-op it. But so again, like, it kind of scratches that World of Warcraft itch because it's almost similar art style where it's very colorful, very like
bit cell shadedy kind of. But then the D&D stuff probably makes it look a bit more wowy as well. Like it's a bit more fantasy than.
Yeah, does it do anything with that, or is it purely aesthetics? Like, do they actually lean into that and let you make character choice? I'm not expecting this to be like, you can have sex with any of the creatures in the world, but like, does it do that?
Like, it's kind of neat when you start the game. You do have like the actual thing of it is like you are playing D&D, so it's like Tiny Tina's the game master, or whatever. But you start in previous Borderlands games, you always pick like the classes. So this every character is already predetermined. Here you actually have a character sheet. So which of like the 7 starting classes you want, which personality type, and that adjusts your starting stats. You can also pick which stats you want to level up every time you level up, in addition to your like skill trees and stuff. So you can customize.
But it's still within the paradigm of this is a looter shooter. It's not it's not an RPG.
No, there's no like turn-based stuff. There's no like dialogue choices, anything like that. The only like RPG elements is just more of like the traditional fantasy tropes of that.
The aesthetic RPG, not the mechanical RPG.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean that's kind of it. So it's not bad. It's I'm having fun with it, and it's filling that Destiny itch before I take off.
There you go. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, available on Steam. It came out 2 years ago now. It's funny how all the reviews mostly positive, and then the recent reviews are mixed. So I think having a bunch of people buy it for cheap was maybe not good for their Steam reviews. Interestingly enough. All right, that's all the games we played. We got some emails here, Mr. Howley.
Yeah, and as always, if you want to send us an email, send us to podcast@noclip.video or in our Patreon Discord. Our first email comes from Steven. Hello, NoClip crew. Life can often be challenging for all of us time-wise, trying to fit in everything we need and want to do, including gaming time. So with that in mind, I have one of 2 questions for the crew. Choose wisely. 1, how do you make time for playing games? Do you have a specific time of day or day of the week you devote to playing games? Or do you complete other goals, tasks first, and then do you play? And then they have another question. Given that time is precious, do you have any rules on how much time you'll invest in a new game before you stop and move on to something else? So...
I'll jump in. I feel like on the time to play games, I mean, we're in the... I certainly am at least in the fortunate position of gaming being a large part of my job. Sometimes the games I want to play are different to the games that I have to play, but there's a significant overlap. Like, we're doing this Cyberpunk project. We've been doing it for, 9 months at this stage. I've played a lot of Cyberpunk over the past 6 months, and part of that is like, oh no, I need to do an extra day. I need to do some of this. I need to do this type of character. I need to play this type of stuff. And I'll try and like put aside a couple of hours. Right now, I'm playing a lot of games for projects we can't talk about, so that's why I've been, a little bit light on the talking about games for the past couple of weeks. But to me, honestly, because I work so much, a lot of it is, okay, today's an edit day. Like yesterday, I did loads of work on our Dwarf Fortress documentary. Today is mostly a meetings, podcast, and then play day. So this morning, I actually did play about 90 minutes, 2 hours of a game that we're doing a project on. It's actually a secret tape thing, but it's one and the same in my head when it comes to the gaming time, what needs to get played. And then I'd say the one thing I will say is that I used to be super dogged about completing games, just from a wanting to be able to talk about a game at all. Like when I was a kid, it was from a financial anxiety perspective. Maybe it was like play the game so then you can sell the game and get a new game, right? So you just completed it so you didn't feel bad about selling it. Like I wouldn't like to sell a game I hadn't finished yet. And then when I worked at GameSpot, it was very much oh no, if you're going to talk about a game, you need to have completed it. Like this, you don't get to not finish a game. Whereas these days, especially because games are have such different prices. I'm like, if I play a game for $5 and I play it for an hour and I've had my fill, I'm like, sure. Like ticket to the cinema costs 4 times as much as that, and I don't say boo. You know what I mean? Pack of chips at Subway costs like $2.20. So it's like, sure, all right, $5, okay. So I'm definitely way more chill about not completing games anymore before I move on to something else. And often I'll come back to something like 4 years later, so I don't sweat it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I used to pressure myself to finish games for the same reason, because it's like, if you want to talk about a game, you should have finished it, because maybe the first act is the best act, and like if I played the first act of Baldur's Gate 3, I would think it was one of the best games ever made. And as you play it more, you get a more holistic version of it in your head. And I think as I've played more games and forced myself to finish more games that I didn't love, I'm like, you don't get it. I don't feel anything from, like, I'm not like, I did it. That like 6 out of 10 game is under my belt. Like, it just feels like I'm like, damn, I really spent 20 extra hours on that game that I didn't really want to spend, and I'll never get that back. So yeah, I think it's just like, at the end of the day, are you being enriched by the experience you're having? Are you enjoying it? Or some games have like a lull, like that's fine, especially longer games. Like if a game is 40 hours, maybe the middle has like a little lull that you should push through because you anticipate that the later parts might be as rewarding as the earlier parts. But yeah, I just play until I'm like done with the game, and then it's like, okay, I had the experience I wanted to have, and I don't think I'm gonna get any more out of this.
Yeah, I wish I did that more. I feel like I have this problem where I'm like, if I'm in the middle of something and I'm enjoying it, I reach that emotionally done with it point. But instead of just being like, okay, I'm done playing this, I don't need to play it anymore, I'm like, let's get to the end. I'm not going to bed until it's over. And then my sleep schedule's ruined. I feel like in the back of my mind, there was, what was it? Dungeons of Hinterberg. I finished that pretty recently.
Oh, yeah.
I think the first half of that game is phenomenal. And then I think it kind of just like runs out of steam. You're kind of just doing things, and then the game's over. Like it kind of reveals what the ending is, and you're like, okay, well, I'll just play until I get to the ending.
Right.
I kind of just wish I didn't do that. Like, it's not like it was bad. I don't feel bad finishing it. But like to Jeremy's point, I don't feel like more enriched having finished a thing I didn't really feel I was having fun with anymore. I just kind of did it to do it.
Yeah.
So to answer the first question, how do I make time for playing games? Just fucking get stuck in a little hyper-focus mode and play it until you can't fall asleep.
I feel like there are some games that I'll be like, they're real 6 out of 10s, where actually, as long as they're not too long, if I finish them, I actually feel really good about it then. Because I'm like, oh yeah, at least I finished it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
that's true.
you get like some weird satisfaction out of just like closing the book a little bit. What about you, Frank?
Yeah, for me, it's like what I've started to do now that things are like a little settled, is like before I do work or even like streaming stuff, sometimes in the morning, I'll play like a game for like even like 30 minutes, just like whatever I want to play. It can be totally random stuff. Like a month ago, it was like Dead Rising or Yakuza. And then at the very end of the night, like, okay, let me play a little bit of it, just like, so I get my own personal little thing. And then, yeah, like like most of the stuff I play is either for Noclip or if I'm streaming, but even if I'm streaming, it's whatever I want to play, whatever. So it's like, I feel like I've gotten so much better over the last like few years of just enjoying the game and trying to be in the present as opposed to worrying about beating it or worrying about trophies. I will stop playing a game once if it's not for like work. I will stop playing a game once it stops feeling rewarding. So if I'm not having fun, there's always that little like struggle room, like, you know, like, oh, about trying to beat a boss or like you're stuck on a part, and I'll give it a little bit. But then if I keep feeling miserable, I'll let go. I realized like I was playing Dead Rising 2 a few months ago, and I just hit a wall. I was like, I'm over it. And then like 2 weeks ago, I booted it up, not knowing I was 30 minutes away from beating the game.
Oh, man.
So I turned on, beat it off, and I was like, if I had
Beat
just
it off.
yeah. So I finished it, and then I ended up playing Dead Rising 4, and now I'm excited for the remaster. So it's like my whole backlog or whatever is so scattered. But the joy of something like QuakeCon is it's like, oh yeah, you can download a game, your saves go with you anywhere. It's kind of fun and random. I think the healthiest thing is like taking a break for something and then coming back to it. Like I was marathoning. Like I came back from Japan, I played Yakuza 3, played Yakuza 4, and like got burned out, stopped for like a month, and then I started Yakuza 5 and was like, oh, this is fresh again. So it's like taking breaks from stuff. So yeah, if I'm not enjoying something, whether it is work or whatever, I feel miserable. So I need to like do something else. And then I'll also cycle like what media I'm consuming. So if I'm playing a ton of games, eventually I'll just get burned out with the whole medium. Then I'll dive deep into like manga or comic books or reading or get way into my cycling routine. So I kind of will rotate the hobbies a little bit. So there's no one universal truth. It's just kind of letting the emotions guide me and whatever I'm hyper fixated.
The two things that I used to always struggle with were one was replaying games and the other one was getting really into one game, because I often felt like I was wasting time. I could have been working on some Noclip stuff or researching games that I wouldn't want maybe be magnetized to for upcoming Noclip stuff. But I've chilled out a little bit on that. The one game that I broke that for, I think, was PUBG. I played a lot of PUBG and I really enjoyed getting into that game, and it was a good social outlet for me. Valheim maybe as well. But I had it recently with Quake Champions. I was like, oh, maybe I'll just get really good at Quake Champions. So I've been playing that, trying to play that a bunch. And then this week, me and my daughter have been playing a bunch of, we've been replaying Tinykin, which she did not play with me that time. So, recommendation from Jesse's wife now.
My wife.
That was a great game to play last year, and I had forgotten enough about it as well that it's been a lot of fun. She's been just like sitting with me here at the computer, and we do a room every night. So we're almost finished now. We only got one left. Another email, Frank?
Yeah. Josh wrote in and said they wanted to write in to mention my favorite Danny-ism, whole nother kettle of ballparks, which I think is a fun combination of whole nother ball game and whole nother kettle of fish, which is basically the same thing. Is that a normal saying in Ireland, or is he taking the piss out of it?
That my good friend Dennis Walsh coined that. He mixes his metaphors all the time. He does it all the time. That's one of my favorite ones that he did. Dennis did a bunch of work for Noclip as well over the years. People will remember him from podcasts I've done in the past as well. A Tournament of Lies he was on, and the old Citizen Gamecast as well every once in a while. But yeah, he mixes all his metaphor. He does it all the time. So a whole lot of kettle of ballparks is my it's a personal favorite of mine. People should use it. We should keep using it because people get it. People know exactly what it is. The problem is the minute you say a whole other kettle, they know what it's redundant finishing the sentence anyway. They know what the idiom is. So it's fun to mix it because then people are like, wait, what? So anyway.
And then Brandon Says wrote in and said they're working through the podcast backlog, and just hit our episode 100. And we had asked listeners to stop what they were doing and recommend an obscure game. I'm curious if any of y'all had played Atom Zombie Smashers.
Oh, yeah.
It has 1,000 Steam reviews, very positive. It's one of my favorite games ever. It's a top-down tower defense where your tower is a town's citizens and scientists as you work to evacuate them via chopper and then in the face of an advancing zombie horde. I love the music, art, and sound effects. There's in-game and community mods that make it quite replayable. I have 126 hours in it. Feels good to send a game recommendation back to you. I love your show and your docs. So yeah, Atom Zombie Smashers.
Jesse, you were nodding as well. Have you played it?
Yeah, this launched, I think, around the time Humble Bundle started doing its whole thing. This was included in one of the early ones. 2011.
I think, it was back when I worked at GameSpot this game was out. So yeah, it was a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, I would have been, 16 when it launched?
Yeah.
And it was like one of my first cheap little indie games I got from Humble Bundle. And I thought it was cool. I wasn't too big into it. It was kind of, I don't know. I was 16. I was like, this isn't Call of Duty or BioShock. I don't care. But it was made by Blendo Games, who have gone on to make some of my favorite games of all time, including Quadrilateral Cowboy, which is awesome.
Yeah, I like Atom Zombie Smasher. I played it back in the day as well. It reminds. I feel like there was a couple of these types of games where it was like a lot of, because you're sort of looking down at a city and all the blocks, and there's like people sort of running away, and then there's, you're sort of doing the orbital cannon thing, and then there's, you know, zombies and stuff. And I feel like, or I guess they're all zombies, aren't they, the people? But I feel like there was a couple of games that did that type of thing where they suddenly like 2D, low poly, but like crowd mechanics. You know what I mean? Like having like lots of entities kind of on the screen, even if they're just little pixels or little sprites, I guess. But it was. I haven't played it in probably a decade, but yeah, that game is it still available just on Steam?
Yeah,
I wonder.
it is for
Up there.
11 Canadian. That seems.
$10 here. Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
that's funny. Yeah, it's a neat game. I'm into it. That's a good recommendation. Any other random recommendation? Anyway, well, you know, in the spirit of Brandon's email, do you guys have any random one you'd throw in there? I guess I mentioned Tinykin again.
Yeah,
I'm opening my Steam library just to see if anything pops out.
yeah. I'm looking at my little random little
I'll think
selection
about
here.
it for next week. And
Pacific
for you, Frank?
Drive's really good.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm like trying to look at my Steam most played and see like what's something that shot. I mean, this is so old. I almost thought about replaying this, but like, yeah, Killing Floor is one of those old ass like
Ooh,
decade
yeah.
plus
Oh,
games
yeah.
that I
It's
have.
time to go shopping.
My on Killing Floor cracked me up because it's like I got dosh here, loads of money.
Yeah, loads of
For whatever
money.
reason, my friends and I played. We spent so much time on the custom maps in Killing Floor. There was a map called 420 Ganja Farm.
Oh my god!
Of course there was. It's the best. It's just a weed farm. So defending a weed farm from zombies, that was like the game. Like I have 30 hours total. I bet we have 20 hours on 420 Ganja Farm. So that was just a thing my friends and I did that summer. So Killing Floor of that era, one of my favorite like zombie defense games. So yeah, it's so funny. 420 Ganja Farm.
I'll quickly mention Cannon Brawl again. I feel like I do this every few years. It came out around the time of back in 2014, so it's 10 years old this September actually. Super great game. It's if you like worms, it's like worms mixed with a strategy game basically. Cannon Brawl, super cool game. Loved it. Didn't sell particularly well, I don't think, but it was I absolutely adored it.
I'm gonna recommend. It's a newer game. It didn't really get talked about much when it launched. I think it launched right at the end of the year last year. It's called A Highland Song, made by Inkle. It's really good. I don't know. The music in it's really nice. It's like Scottish Highlands
What
game.
type of
where
game is it?
It's a platformer, 2D platformer, made by Inkle, the studio that does like 80 Days and what was the other one that they did? Sorcery, Heaven's Vault, stuff like that. Pendragon. So they make like very narrative, choice heavy games, but they've done it here in the style of a 2D platformer that is about like discovering things and exploring and like just coming to your own conclusions and learning about this place in these mountains and the history behind it all. It's really nice. It's a very just like pretty game to be in. It looks nice. It sounds nice. It did not get enough love when it launched, unfortunately, but I think it's worth every dollar.
You got one, Jeremy?
Yeah, one of my favorite underrated games, I've mentioned it on the podcast, but I don't think we did like an episode about it or anything, was Who's Lila, which is kind of like a survival horror-ish game, but it's more like social horror. And the sort of the gimmick of it is that the way you go into these scenes where they're unfolding and people are like, hey man, like, what do you think about this? And instead of choosing dialogue options, you're typically just grabbing the face of the character and dragging it. So, and there's
Like
a
Mario
timer ticking
64,
down.
like the title screen?
It is
Oh my
like the
God.
Mario 64 title
Oh my
screen,
God.
but the face keeps like slipping out of place. So like you're basically like, you know, it's like you're like super high in public and it's like, just be normal, just make a normal face. And then you're just like, they're like, all right, this
funny.
is what a smile looks like, right? But the face is moving. So it's very funny when it like locks in and you haven't been able to quite manage it. And so it makes a terrifying like grimace at them. And it's like, you look ill at ease and they're like, what's wrong with you? But it's it evolves beyond the gimmick into a very sort of cerebral, very like fourth wall breaking, disturbing horror game that I think is really brilliant.
Nice. I'm gonna throw one more in. Mushroom 11, which is a great kind of like Gish, but like where you're controlling like a big blob, basically super physicsy, but just wicked art style. Like you're sort of like a nuclear blob. The thing about it is, you know, Gish is like a ball with like round edges. Mushroom 11 is like a weird like ball that you're moving around or lump of goop, but it
Like
has
flubber?
90 but it has like 90 degree angles in it. So it sort of it's able to it's like the game has a hidden grid in the background. It's super interesting. If you like puzzly physics games, Mushroom 11's great. It's really good. I was just shocked. I looked on Steam there. It's only got like 120 reviews or something, but it's absolutely, a really great puzzle game. All right, there's some recommendations. Thanks for the emails, everyone. The games we played again this week were the Crimson Diamond, Arco, and of course, Borderlands, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Pick those up in stores now. Call now. In terms of Noclip stuff, we put up the patron show this week, which announced 2 embedded docs we've been working on. Both games were announced recently on their own, away from Gamescom. So we sort of spilled the beans on that stuff. There is the behind the scenes video of myself and Frank at QuakeCon is available for behind the scenes and early access viewers. We will also have the behind the scenes of our Dredge documentary filming, which basically is just outtakes of myself and Jeremy on a beach on the West Coast here, getting real silly in the fog. That's going up this weekend as well, just right after this podcast goes live. We have an episode, I think the Abubakar Salim episode of Dear Dwyery will hopefully be up next week. I have to get you the VO, Jesse. I'll do that later on today. And next week we want a Frank, because Frank is heading off to Japan once again. We're doing some September's nuts. I'm going to be on the road for a month. I'm going to be in Asia, Eastern Europe, Northern Europe, and then Ireland before heading home. It's a mixture of Noclip and Secret Tape stuff. We are filming a bunch of our cyberpunk documentary in Warsaw, and then either side of that, we've got some Secret Tape projects on. Frank, you're going to come to those, but because one of them is in Seoul in Korea, you're going to go to Japan on the way. Spend a week acclimatizing to the time zone, going to some wrestling shows. Is that the plan?
Yeah, I'm probably setting a record. I'll be there for 5 days, 4 nights. I'm going to 4 wrestling shows.
Wow.
So
it's a one-issue voter, Frank Howley.
I am so excited. I'm going to 2 Stardom shows. It's the 5 Grand Prix tournament. We're going to be there on the final night. On the final night of the Grand Star tournament, one of the wrestlers is selling an exclusive bottle of wine. If you buy the wine, you can meet her. So I will get to meet Azumi-chan. No,
Amazing.
Azumi, AZM. And then I'm going to Jun Kasai's Deathmatch Carnival. It's a wrestling show. It's a deathmatch wrestling show with like light tubes and stuff. They're doing a scaffolding match, so they're gonna have high up in the ceiling and we'll crash down. My friend got us ringside seats, so we have to wear face masks because we'll otherwise inhale light tube dust. We will probably get blood on ourselves.
Shit, dude.
People have told me
Wow.
in the past, people bring ponchos and like to cover up. So I watched a documentary on this, and in one of the wrestling shows, someone got sliced open and a piece of his muscle fell out.
Oh.
And he didn't know what he was. He just thought it was like something, and he yanked it off.
No.
So
wait, was
I
that a
can't-
wrestler or a crowd person?
Wrestler, not a
Oh
crowd
my
person, but wrestler. So
God.
Deathmatch, Jun Kasai's Deathmatch Carnival, and then another show is 666 Wrestling of the Darkness, where everyone has like that. I have a corpse seat, which is what they call their front row seats. So
These sound
so much
dangerous.
wrestling. I'm so excited.
Be careful, Frank.
Yeah.
But I promised Danny, the wrestling show's nuts. But other than that, go back to home, reset. Not gonna get too crazy, so I'll be ready for
Don't get
all the stuff.
COVID before our shoot.
No,
That's all.
no,
That's,
no.
you
I'll
know,
be good. I'll be
that
good.
too.
It's fine. We can cover the cost of you getting inhaling microscopic forever chemicals into your chest. But yeah, just make sure you turn up for shoot on
Yes,
Monday. No,
yes.
I'm only kidding. Take care of yourself. Have fun. That sounds like a blast. So that'll be next week. So the podcast is going to be a little bit funny for the next few weeks because we want our Frank next week. I won't be available the week after that. We're going to actually record one of them on the road as well. So September should be pretty wild. It's also next month is also our 8th birthday as well at Noclip, and we'll be doing some announcing of stuff around the birthday as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Our documentary on Dust 2. I don't think we've ever publicly said it, but
We have
it's,
not. Is
it's
this the
coming.
announce?
Yeah, it's the announce, I guess. Jeremy, tell
Yeah.
us about the doc. It's coming out in the next few weeks. Coming out next month, let's say in September. But
Yeah.
tell us about this this documentary. I've been watching it. I've been doing some editing work on it. But this was your project, your interview, your edit, the whole thing. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so this is a project that essentially has been in the works since I worked at GameSpot, kind of. I reached out to Dave Johnston, the creator of Dust, Dust 2, Cobble, Tire, a bunch of old CS maps a decade ago. And I was like, hey, man, it would be really cool to interview you and just talk to you. Like, you know, Dust is as iconic a place in my brain as like my childhood bedroom. I could probably draw a map of Dust 2 more accurately than my childhood home. And yeah, so I reached out to him again a decade later and said, hey, man, sorry I never got back to you. I know it's been 10 years. Would you ever want to chat? And he said, yeah, I don't really do many interviews, but I would love to. So I interviewed him in the middle of the night because he's in the UK. And we chatted about Dust and Dust 2 and Counter-Strike history and what it's like to make, one of the most iconic pieces of video game history in your childhood bedroom.
Is it the most... Like, aside from Fortnite, because Fortnite has one map and 100 players, so I guess per person, it's probably the most played multiplayer map. Maybe League of Legends, actually, is probably tops out at that. But, like, for first-person shooters, Dust and Dust 2, especially Dust 2, I guess, it's had a bit of a longer lifespan now. It must be the most played multiplayer map. Surely one of the oldest that's still in rotation. Like, it is the iconic first-person competitive shooter multiplayer map.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I mean, it's been, I talked to him about this and you'll see it in the doc, but it's been recreated in Minecraft and there's like a Far Cry mod. That's it. Like every game that's had mapping tools ever, someone has recreated Dust 2.
It's the 1-1 of FPS
maps. Yeah, totally. So it's just, it's interesting. It started out as like, I want to talk to this master map designer. And then as I interviewed him, it more evolved into him very humbly recounting how like, he kind of just was figuring it out as he went, and he was basically just like a high school kid. That he sent me, there's a picture in the doc that has never been posted anywhere as far as I know, and it's a very low-res digital photo of him in his school uniform, sitting at his computer working on Worldcraft, the map tools, a few months before he made Dust 1. So it's really cool.
He's
it's
child.
Like it's literally like a little kid. And it is, I mean, I told him this, but it's very inspirational to me to think that such an iconic piece of games history can emerge, not from these, mega corporate $billion studios, but just from a kid doing it because he loves first-person shooters and loves games and loves making maps and stuff. So it turned out to be a really interesting story, so I'm psyched about it.
Super good. I adored watching it. I was so happy I wasn't involved because I got to just enjoy it. Absolute blast. We're going to film the stand-ups for that next week, fingers crossed, and we can get that one primed for September. So yeah, if you're a fan of hey, look, we know we've a lot of Half-Life fans who follow our work.
Bread and butter.
It is a bit. So I'm sure they'll enjoy a nice way of us doing a sort of a Counter-Strike one as well, which is pretty cool. Bunches of other stuff going on. Go watch the Patreon show. $5. Help us out over at patreon.com/noclip. We're doing as much as we can over here. We'll be back next week with another podcast. Until then, bye.